Arenas got removed nearly a year ago for apparently having a low player count, but is this true? Well, let's take a look at the dark side of Arenas and how it became a testing ground for a secret group of malicious players and terrible things, and Arenas' potential return to Apex. But starting at the start, Arenas originally came out in Season 9 as just a basic 3v3 mode where you could buy your weapons and your abilities, and it was pretty damn fun. It had huge potential, and Respawn clearly had big plans for Arenas, like an Arenas exclusive battle pass, a 4v4 and a 5v5 mode, crazy perks and crazy maps, but unfortunately we wouldn't see many updates to Arenas at all. The biggest update we got was one season after when Ranked Arenas released, and then we never saw any major updates to the Arenas mode at all. Only a few new maps. So unfortunately, the lack of big changes in Arenas did put a few people off, and the player count slowly dropped over the seasons, which caused a lot of issues, like terrible matchmaking. Arenas had completely terrible matchmaking in Ranked. You could never get in a ranked game with people the same rank as you. You could queue bronze, and you would get in a game with Preds, and that would just be a normal day in Arenas. This was one huge complaint, and it wasn't long until a lot of the Preds in Arenas found a way to abuse this, because they will queue in really low population servers like Bahrain servers, and basically get matched against bronzes every time. So they could pretty much consistently guarantee, as Predators, they would go against bronzes in every single match. I tried this, I was a bronze in Arenas, I queued Bahrain, and instantly I got a Pred 3 stack. This Pred 3 stack would spend all day just stomping people who just started the game to maintain their fake Predator status. And one of them got so mad I made that video, they changed their name to this, which is quite funny. The Arena Pred scene was so full of cheaters who will boost their rank in weird ways. One of the most notorious hackers in Apex history estimated that more than half of Arena Preds were cheating in some way or another, which may seem fake and surprising because surely half of them aren't cheating, but it's not fake, because whenever the Arena ban numbers were published, they were always huge, and these are the numbers developers only showed us occasionally. God knows what they were keeping behind the scenes. Boosting for the Preb rank got that bad in Arenas that it was pretty much guaranteed at any given time, the number one Pred in Arenas would be cheating. There have been so many documented cases of the number one Pred getting banned, honestly it's hard to find them all. And in some cases, the number one Predator in Arenas would spend months publicly posting, asking for people to boost their rank with, on public forums with their name, and they wouldn't get banned for months. They would maintain this rank and Respawn would do nothing. It was an insane time in Apex history. One of the most notorious number one Preds who was cheating used to post every day on the Apex Looking for Games forum asking for people to boost with, completely publicly, and most people did say the Apex Looking for Games forums were completely riddled with Arenas boosters. But this is light work. It wasn't just boosters. The hacking scene on Arenas was absolutely terrible, and it was almost a testing ground for hacks that didn't exist outside of Arenas. It was very, very odd, because when the Wraith Prestige skin was in the files and not released, somehow, I have no idea how, this was the first and last time we ever saw this done in Apex, they equipped the Mythic skin before it was even released. It was quite odd to see it in game because basically people were seeing the skin that they had no idea existed. Also, there were many documented cases of hackers being able to shoot through walls and just blatantly hacking for days without getting banned. It was insane. And these situations only happened in the early days of Arenas. As we approached the end of Arenas' life before it got removed, it got worse because Respawn seemingly took less care of it. We actually had a huge epidemic of AFK bots in Arenas. These still exist to some degree in Apex these days, but they're very rare now. But back in the final few seasons of Arenas, cheat developers did make these AFK bots, which would basically just stand around and do nothing and occasionally move to farm XP so they could get to like level 10 or 20 or something so they could play ranked and they could sell these accounts. So in almost a kick to the balls for Respawn, not only were they dealing with hackers, they were also dealing with hackers creating bots to make money for them in the Arenas game mode. This place was truly infested. But the number one motivation for a lot of people boosting and cheating in Arenas was the badges. But of course it had Pred badges and stuff like that, but there was one badge that captured everybody's attention in Arenas, and it's still the hardest badge to this day to ever obtain in Apex Legends. The 100 win streak badge. I am sure at least 90% of the people who currently have this badge cheated for it, because to get this badge you literally had to get a 100 win streak in Arenas completely unbroken. In the first few weeks of Arenas, you could actually glitch this badge if you just disconnected your game before you lost the Arenas game. It wouldn't count as a loss for you, but in the later days of Arenas when they did patch this, people came up with some wacky ways to get this badge and the Pred badge. Like some players managed to literally somehow create their own private servers in Arenas where they could consistently get in a lobby with with 3 burner accounts and win every single game with no effort. The reason I didn't feature this badge on the rarest badge list I did is because I genuinely believe most of the people with this badge do not deserve it at all. Speaking of big win streaks though, there was a #1 pred in arenas, surprise surprise, who did the dumbest thing ever to get himself banned. Basically, another notorious arenas hacker really wanted to get #1 pred, so naturally they started cheating on some games. But they didn't lose any games. They got to the point where they were on a 242 win streak from cheating before they got banned. These were the types of people we were dealing with in arenas. They were just dumb, didn't think much, and just hacked, and Respawn did nothing until their attention was brought to it. But in a bit of a sigh of relief at the end of Season 15, Respawn did announce that they would be removing arenas in Season 16 of Apex. It just wouldn't exist. They cited this as there being not many players, which honestly makes sense because the amount of cheaters were a product of no players playing it. So when it was announced that arenas was getting deleted, the cheaters took it as an invitation to cheat some more. Yes, even on the final days of arenas, the cheating was rampant, and it was honestly worse than it's ever been, because they knew this was their last chance to ever make a big mess in arenas. A few months ago, I did check the leaderboards for the very last days of arenas, and pretty much every single top pred on that list had won every single game. They were on like 60 win streaks because they were just cheating their hearts out, trying to get the #1 pred position before arenas officially ended in Apex. It was an insane rat race. At the time, I was getting tagged by a load of people who wanted me to bring attention to this, and the numbers were extremely inflated in the pred race. People were earning thousands of AP per day, which, to put into perspective, the average AP you would get from winning an arenas game was like 20-ish. It was insane and extremely sad to see, and especially extremely sad for the very low amount of people who were genuinely trying to legitimately grind arenas. You know, those who weren't boosting on random Middle East servers or just cheating. But it wasn't long until the fateful day of February the 14th rolled around, where arenas was completely removed and mixtape took its place as the permanent mode, which honestly, in my opinion, is way better for warming up anyway, because you're getting way more engagements and you can actually train yourself to deal with third parties in this mode, unlike arenas. But will this mode ever come back? Because the #1 thing that inspired me to make this video was the amount of people wanting arenas back, saying the game's dying without it. Well, in a technical way, arenas had a lot of working parts in it, a lot of code that has since been removed, a lot of sounds that have since been removed, and a lot of mechanics that have since been removed from the game. Respawn would have to add a lot to the game to bring it back as an LTM, and honestly doesn't seem worth it, especially when Respawn could literally recreate arenas almost by making a TDM 3v3 mode. I think despite what the vocal minority says, a lot of people are just genuinely more happy with mixtape. Also, mixtape isn't a mode that had its own meta like arenas and its own OP characters. It doesn't have to be balanced separately. Overall, I think we're better off with it, and I think Respawn struggled to kind of develop 2 separate big modes at the same time and also moderate 2 separate big modes. I think Apex is genuinely better off without arenas, but hopefully Respawn can do a bit of work on the mixtape mode, like maybe giving it tracked stats so people are more incentivized to play it. But hey, that's Respawn's move. Hopefully they learn from arenas. But do you miss arenas, and do you remember any of this? And subscribe, please.